Hey, Shalom, Israel. You're on live with the Israelite School, the UPK. Priest and Captain Soccer War holding down the class here in Memphis. Bear with me 1 second, y'all. We getting started very shortly, all right? Any brothers and sisters tuning in, got any questions, y'all can go ahead and type them in. As you can see, tonight's class is going to be about the truth about December 25th and what's actually being celebrated, as we're told that it is a celebration of Christmas. So we're going to get into that shortly, all right? Again, if anybody got any questions, all I can do is type them in. Come on. Oh, here we go. All right, all right. What's that? So just add this in here. Hold on. All right, there we go. All right, so we're good to go. All right, Shalom, Israel. You're on live with the Israelite School, the UPK, Priest and Captain Soccer War, holding down the class live from Memphis, Tennessee. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have classes here in Memphis to teach so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians the truth according to the Bible. What is the truth? The truth is that so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans descend from the greatest people that have ever walked the face of the earth. And in the year 2021, there's nothing more important than for us to learn the truth of who we are, where we come from, and what our purpose is here on the earth. With that said, Tuesday is brotherhood class, Wednesday is biblical law, Thursday is scripture breakdown. And today we find ourselves 2 days from the celebration of Christmas. And for those of you out there who may not know, being a Hebrew Israelite, descending from the 12 tribes of Israel and belonging to the nation that the Most High chose and raised up to be his people, the celebration of Christmas is a complete and utter abomination and a what's the word I'm looking for? It is a blasphemy against the Most High. You understand? I know in America we've been raised and taught and believed that Jesus Christ was born on December 25th, and that upon his birth, the wise men came and visited him and brought him gifts. And so, because of that, we should honor the honor the birth of Christ and celebrate it and give gifts to one another. But what we're gonna go into tonight is breaking down this holiday and how nothing that we've been taught about this celebration has anything to do with the Bible, with God, and what it is that He commanded that we do. Nor does the celebration have anything to do with Jesus Christ. So we're gonna go into the history of the whole Christmas trees, the Santa Claus, the Saint Nick. You know what I mean? The 12 Days of Christmas, which is one of the songs they sing. We'll get into all of that tonight. All right. If any brothers and sisters have any questions, all you gotta do is raise your hand if you're in the classroom, or if you're online, type them in. All right. First things first, what I want to do is Give me John chapter 4, verse 4. And this John, the 4th chapter, in large part is a conversation that Christ had with a Syrophoenician woman, right? A woman that was from the living in the land of Samaria. She was not of the 12 tribes of Israel. He encountered her at a well, and in the conversation that they had, this woman believed that she was of the people of God. She believed that she belonged to the same nation that Christ belonged to. You understand? She even tried to correct Christ about where they worshiped and what they celebrated and how it was similar to what the Israelites did. And then Christ explaining the difference between this woman and himself, he said the following. Go ahead and you read it.
The book of John, chapter 4, verse 4.
Might not be 4 and 4. I'm looking for you know not what you worship. Is that it? That was at 4 and 20. Might be John 4 and 20. Let me see. 4 and see something. 4 and 22. John 4 and 22.
The book of John, chapter 4, verse 22. Ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews.
You understand? Christ explained to this woman that she did not know what she worshiped. You understand? And today in 2021, there are a lot of things that people are out here worshiping, namely Christmas. And the truth is, they don't know what it is that they're worshiping. However, we know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Everybody understands? We know what we worship. We know what we know how to serve the God of this Bible. We know how to live a righteous life. And obeying God and living a righteous life means you don't celebrate Christmas. It means you don't partake in things that are filthy and unrighteous and against God and his word. And I don't care who you are. I don't care why you do it. If you're celebrating Christmas, you are doing something that is unrighteous and it goes against God. And there's nowhere in this Bible, there's nowhere in God's word where there is an excuse for disobeying him. Everybody understands? We're doing it for the kids, or it's a family tradition. Matter of fact, drop that. Let me get Mark chapter 7, verse 6. You understand? These scriptures are going to cut the whole spirit and the whole vibe of all your excuses for celebrating this Christmas. You understand? If you're going to be anywhere where there's a Christmas tree up tomorrow and they singing carols, if you're going to be somewhere exchanging gifts with someone, you understand? If you're going to be holding hands with the family and saying a prayer over that dinner that you're thankful that God gave Jesus Christ for, all of that is partaking in Christmas. Everybody understands? Now, being an Israelite and living in 2021, you can't help but to go places and there's going to be people celebrating. You are not to celebrate. If you live in a home where they celebrating Christmas, ain't nothing you can do to get away from that. You on purpose be in defiance against the Christmas spirit. You understand? and there's a lot of brothers and sisters out there. You may still be living with people who celebrate Christmas. Being in the house where there's a Christmas tree is not a sin against the Lord. But exchanging gifts is. Singing old Christmas tree and, all the damn carols and the songs about the spirit of Christmas, you want to steer clear of that. And in your conscience, know the Lord sees me, man. He knows I'm not celebrating this nonsense. Everybody understand? And that's what matters, man. Come on with it. Mark chapter 7, verse 6.
The book of Mark, chapter 7, verse 6. He answered and said unto them, we'll have
Isaiah. It's Isaiah, but it's Isaiah. No sweat.
We'll have Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites.
Christ said, Isaiah prophesied about you hypocrites. Who are the hypocrites? The people today who say they love God, say they believe in Jesus, and do nothing that the Bible says to do. Anyone who celebrates Christmas and says that they love God, they are a hypocrite. Keep reading.
As it is written, this people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from
You
me.
understand? Isaiah said that this people honors God with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Meaning what? Their mouth says, I love God, I love Jesus, oh, I'm thankful for the Most High. But their mind and their actions says something different. You celebrating Christmas, you smoking weed, if you eating pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster, if you're having sex with sisters and throwing them away, if you're a sister that's just in relationships and breaking up and moving on to other men, all of those things make you a hypocrite. It makes you someone who blasphemes and lies on God when you says you love God and you serve him and you're thankful for him, but you don't do nothing that he says to do, because all those things I just mentioned are sins and go against God. Everybody understands? Christ said, Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites. You honor God with your lips, but your heart is far from him. Read on.
Verse 7. Howbeit, in vain do they worship me.
Your worship of God is vain, meaning it means nothing. You think that it means something to go to church on that Sunday. You think it means something to put up that tree and have those presents. You think you're doing something good for the children when all of it means nothing. Read.
Teaching for doctrines the commandments of men.
You teach for doctrines, meaning you teach like it belongs to God, the doctrines of men. And celebrating Christmas is following the doctrines of men. Everybody understands. Having sex with a sister and that having the intention of keeping her for the rest of your life is you living by the doctrines of men. You understand? This New Year's celebration is about to come up. All of these things are being taught to us as their commandments, but really they are the doctrines of men. Keep reading.
Verse 8. For laying aside the commandments of God, ye hold the traditions of men.
And that's what Christmas is. Christmas is laying aside the commandments of God to keep the traditions of men. Celebrating your birthday is laying aside the commandments of God to keep the traditions of men. Getting high, smoking weed is tearing aside the commandments of God and keeping the traditions of men. Everybody understands? Okay. And these are things that we need to break free from, that the Most High does not want us to participate in. Everybody understands? Okay. So first and foremost, we're going to deal with the whole December 25th and how that's not at all Jesus' birthday. All right? Anybody have any questions on that, on the whole December 25th thing? All right, nobody has any questions on it, so here's what we're going to do with the whole December 25th. Give me Luke chapter 2, verse 8. Matter of fact, give me Luke chapter 2, verse 6. Give me Luke 2 and 1. I'll read it, all right? It's Luke chapter 2, verse 1. This is evidence that Jesus was not born on December 25th, all right? Luke 2 and 1 says, and it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. So this is tax time, right? When the taxes need to be paid? The day's taxes need to be filed is by April 15th, right? Well, where does America get April 15th from? They get it from the Romans. Who were ruling during the time we're reading about? The Romans. Why did the Romans collect taxes in April? Does anybody know?
It was the beginning of the year? Or the beginning of the tax period?
Okay, you right. But tell me why. You said beginning of the year, beginning of the tax period. Why was it wise for the government to tax people in April?
Because it was they had more things going on around that time, or
more things like what?
They had more money, more crops, and more cattle and stuff like that.
Yes, it's springtime.
Right.
The beginning of the spring for farmers is when they get their money. We've been far removed from farming, right? In this time that we living in, but farmers' life really is about 3 months long. A farmer's money-making period is really about 3 months from March to June. That's when a farmer gonna make all his money. Why? because the wintertime, nothing is growing. The ground is cold, it's dead, right? When it starts warming up, that's when the farmer got to go out there, get their cattle. They need to plow that ground. They need to put their seeds in the earth. And then what happens? They cover it up. In the springtime, there's rain coming. It's starting to get warm outside. The sun is shining. That creates a healthy situation for crops to grow. It takes a crop about a month to grow. 6 weeks for corn. You plant it in the ground. 6 weeks later, you get a corn stalk. About 7 or 8 weeks, you get corn on the cob, and now you can go cut down go pick that corn, and about a week of cleaning it up and find out how much you got, you can take it to the market and sell it. Everybody understands? So the tax time was when all the farmers would be getting all their crops together to know how much money they're going to make this year. The tax man will come and say, okay, well, we see you're going to make X amount of dollars. We want our 10% or we want our 30%, and they will come tax you right at the time when you was getting all your money. If you were a farmer who raised cattle, if you raised horses, the wintertime, the animals are in the barn, they sleeping. Around near the spring is when the females start getting heat. They having sex. 3 months later, babies are being born. Boom. Now, as a farmer, man, I just had my calves just gave birth to 3 baby cows. Now, boom, this is how much I'm going to be able to make over the next year because of the growth of these young cattle that I get. Everybody knows how much they're going to be making around tax time so that the government can come and get what they need. Everybody understands? So the government in Rome taxed at the same time that America taxes today. So we're talking about the springtime. Everybody understands? For Ash Bagaramya, he said the harvest. That's correct. All right. They come tax around harvest time. Luke 2:4. It says, and Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. Meaning what? Mary was very pregnant. Mary was great with child, meaning she's 7-8 months pregnant. She about to bust any minute. Everybody understands? Verse 6, and so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. Everybody understands? This is tax time. Jesus was being born while Joseph was there to get taxed. Verse 8, and there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. The shepherds were out in the field with the flocks at night, which lets you know this is not the winter time. It's not the time of year when it's cold outside and it's freezing, which is what we experience here in December 25th. Now, somebody may be skeptical and say, oh, man, the seasons is different around different parts of the earth. Not in the northern hemisphere. If you live in the northern hemisphere, north of the equator, you experience the same seasons year round as no matter where you are on the earth. So here in America, what do we have? We got the springtime is now. We got the wintertime. They're the winter right now. Then the springtime is going to come. Then it's the summer. Then it's the fall. It's the same no matter where you are on the earth as long as you're north of the equator. The seasons only change if you go south of the equator. Everybody understands? So right now it's wintertime in America. But in Australia, which is south of the equator, it's summertime. It's wintertime here north of the equator in America. If you live in Argentina or you live in South Africa, it's summertime right now. The seasons are opposite south of the equator than they are north of the equator. But if you're north of the equator, no matter where you are around the earth, you experience the seasons at the same time. So in Israel, which is in north of the equator, they have winter time during December. So if Jesus Christ was born on December 25th, there's no way that he could have been born in a manger. There's no way that the shepherds would have been out there in the field. There's no way that the Romans would have been taxing the people, which is why his father went to Bethlehem in the first place. Also, we know that Joseph, what was another reason why Joseph was in Bethlehem? Why was there no room at the inn for them to stay when they was in town? Come on, y'all.
A lot of people already gathered there.
Why?
For the feast day.
What feast day?
The Passover.
The Passover. Everybody was in town for the Passover. That's why there was no room for Joseph and Mary to stay, because it was the Passover. When did the Passover occur? In the springtime. Everybody understands. So there we have it. Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. So where does the whole December 25th thing come from? In order to answer that, I'm going to pull up this video. For the brothers and sisters online, they'll be able to see the video. For here in the classroom, you just listen, all right? I'm going to see if I can turn this around so you can see it. All right, here we go. Hold on. Bear with me, y'all. All right. It says Jesus Christ, born of a virgin, born on December 25th, a star in the east, 12 disciples, performed miracles, dead for 3 days, resurrected. What we're about to see is the telling of the December 25th celebration and where it comes from.
First of all, the birth sequence is completely astrological. The star in the east is Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, which, on December 24th, aligns with the 3 brightest stars in Orion's belt. These 3 bright stars in Orion's belt are called today what they were called in ancient times, the 3 kings.
Okay, that's a lie. Those stars are never known as the 3 kings. Also in the Bible doesn't say 3 kings came to visit Christ. It said 3 wise men from the east. All right?
And the 3 kings and the brightest star, Sirius, all point to the place of the sunrise on December 25th. This is why the 3 kings follow the star in the east, in order to locate the sunrise, the birth of the sun. The Virgin Mary is the constellation Virgo, also known as Virgo the Virgin. Virgo in Latin means virgin. Virgo is also referred to as the house of bread, and the representation of Virgo is a virgin holding a sheaf of wheat. This house of bread and its symbol of wheat represents August and September, the time of harvest. In turn, Bethlehem, in fact, literally translates to house of bread. Bethlehem is thus a reference to the constellation Virgo, a place in the sky, not on Earth. There is another very interesting phenomenon that occurs around December 25th, or the winter solstice. From the summer solstice to the winter solstice, the days become shorter and colder. And from the perspective of the northern hemisphere, the sun appears to move south and get smaller and more scarce. The shortening of the days and the expiration of the crops when approaching the winter solstice symbolize the process of death to the ancients. It was the death of the sun. And by December 22nd, the sun's demise was fully realized, for the sun, having moved south continually for 6 months, makes it to its lowest point in the sky. Here a curious thing occurs. The sun stops moving south, at least perceivably, for 3 days. And during this 3-day pause, the sun resides in the vicinity of the Southern Cross, or Crux, constellation. And after this time, on December 25th, the sun moves 1 degree, this time north, foreshadowing longer days, warmth, and spring. And thus it was said, the sun died on the cross, was dead for 3 days, only to be resurrected or born again. This is why Jesus and numerous other sun gods share the crucifixion, 3-day death, and resurrection concept. It is the sun's transition period before it shifts its direction back into the northern hemisphere, bringing spring and thus salvation. However, they did not celebrate the resurrection of the sun until the spring equinox, or Easter. This is because at the spring equinox the sun officially overpowers the evil darkness, as daytime thereafter becomes longer in duration than the night, and the revitalizing conditions of spring emerge.
All right. So again, that is where the whole December 25th celebration comes from. The whole December 25th celebration is related to what signs in the sky. You understand? And that's something that heathens have celebrated and worshipped and participated in for a very, very long time. That whole, what we just watched there, now again, it's easy to see how Christianity has nothing to do with the Bible, Because all of those things that this man just relayed in this clip I just showed has nothing to do with the Bible. Everybody understands? The Bible, again, doesn't mention anything about three kings. The Bible doesn't mention anything about the sun rising in the Southern Cross. All of that is just, that's BS, right? But the truth about Christmas is related to everything astrological, having to do with the sky and signs and the stars, and it has nothing to do with the Bible. Everybody understands? So the first scripture I want to go to is Jeremiah, the 4th chapter. Or Jeremiah, the 10th chapter. All right. Shalom, my glory in Christ. All right. Get Jeremiah, the 10th chapter. Again, the Bible, Christianity has nothing to do with the Bible. Christianity is the worship of ancient old gods that have always been around for a long time. Everybody understands? And the evidence of that is right here in this Bible. This Christmas, this December 25th, this putting gifts and under a tree and gathering everybody around under the tree is not anything new, and it's not anything that's related to the Bible. And the evidence of it is right here in Jeremiah, the 10th chapter. Now, Jeremiah lived about 300 years, 400 years before Christ was born. Yet Jeremiah prophesied to the children of Israel to stop doing an evil that was very prevalent in society at that time. We're going to read about it right here, and we're going to see how it relates to evil that's still being done in the earth today. So you got Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10, verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus said the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the custom of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver, with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers that move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil. Neither also is it in them to do good.
Everybody understands. Jeremiah spoke to the children of Israel and said, learn not the ways of the heathen. Meaning what? Don't learn the customs of these people that are not related to us. Don't learn about the things these other nations do. Don't get involved in what these other nations worship. Everybody understands. He said, don't be dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. What are the signs of the heaven? This winter solstice is a sign of the heavens. Everybody understand? That video pointed out what happens on the winter solstice. The winter solstice is the shortest day of the year. You understand? The winter solstice is it's the center of winter time, meaning it is the shortest day. So here's how the sun works from our perspective. If you're on the earth, if you're somebody who watches the sun, tracks the sun, right? On the winter solstice, the sun is in the sky for the shortest amount of time out of all the days of the year. Everybody understands. The winter solstice is literally the dead of winter because the sun is only up for about 6 or 7 hours. After the winter solstice, the days start to get longer. You understand? It's the shortest day of the year. Every day after the winter solstice is a little bit longer than the day before, meaning the sun is in the sky a little bit longer. The sun keeps staying in the sky longer every day until you get to the spring equinox. What is the spring equinox? The spring equinox is the beginning of the spring. It is the day when I believe it's an even day. It's a day of even light and even darkness. You understand? And the spring equinox starts the beginning of the spring. Why? Because every day after that, the sun is going to be in the sky longer than the night. The days are longer than the night after the spring equinox. Everybody understands? Come on with it, Ash. That goes until the summer solstice. The summer solstice is the longest day of the year. It's the day that the sun is in the sky longer than any other day of the year. Then after the summer solstice, the days start to get shorter until you get to the autumn equinox. The autumn equinox is another half day. It's a day where the sun is in the sky an equal amount of time as it's dark outside. Then after the autumn equinox, the days get shorter and shorter and shorter until you right back in the dead of winter. We're at the winter solstice again, and it's the shortest day of the year. Everybody understands? So the seasons that we have today are based off of those 4 events: the winter solstice, the spring equinox, the summer solstice, and the autumn equinox. Now, for us, that's just time. That's just knowing the days, how long the days are, and knowing when to plant crops and when to grow them and when to get ready for the cold. Everybody understands? To the heathens, it's a whole story of God fighting the night and fighting the darkness and overcoming the daylight. And the sun is dead for 3 days. Then he rises again. All of those stories is for goofy people, for stupid people who don't know simple. Hey, the days are getting longer, B. The days are getting shorter. Hey, we've got to prepare for winter, y'all. For people who don't notice, who don't recognize seasons, you got to give them stories of God's fighting and conquering each other and winning the day for them to just, all right, B, it's wintertime. Get a coat. Everybody understand? The Lord told us, don't be dismayed at the signs of heaven, because it's not nothing major. It's the same thing every damn year. And ain't no gods battling in the sky. If it happens every year, it's just the seasons changing. But these heathens, they are amazed that the seasons changing. Come on with it, come on, y'all.
So the same God been winning, the same God been losing every year.
Every year, fighting the same battle over and over. They teach it to their kids and tell it to their children and all of that, right? So Jeremiah said, don't be dismayed at the signs of heaven. Then Jeremiah goes on to say the customs of the people are vain. For one goes out in the forest and cuts down a tree and decorates the tree with silver and gold. They nail it down so that it can't move, so that it stands up straight. But Jeremiah says to the children of Israel, don't be afraid, for the tree can't hurt you. Why were people afraid of this tree? Why did people fear what would happen if they did not put this tree up, if they did not nail this tree? Why were people afraid of the tree? We're going to get into it right now, all right? This is the Nimrod tree. This is an excerpt from a cat named John Sarkett. Found it online, all right? It says, Nimrod started the great organized world apostasy from God that has dominated this world until now. Nimrod married his own mother, whose name was Semiramis. After Nimrod's death, his so-called mother wife, Semiramis, propagated the evil doctrine of the survival of Nimrod as a spirit being. She claimed a full-grown evergreen tree sprang overnight from a dead tree stump, which symbolized the springing forth unto new life of the dead Nimrod. On each anniversary of his birth, she claimed Nimrod would visit the evergreen tree and leave gifts upon it. December 25th was the birthday of Nimrod. This is the real origin of the Christmas tree. Everybody understands? The Christmas tree comes from the worship of Nimrod. Nimrod was a man who the Bible recognizes as the first king among men. The Bible says that Nimrod was a mighty hunter against God. Everybody understands? When Nimrod died, in order to maintain control over the people, his mother told the people that Nimrod has not died. His spirit is alive in the evergreen tree. What's special about an evergreen tree? An evergreen tree, as long as it gets sunlight, as long as it's watered, it never dies. Its leaves never wither. It never changes colors. It's always green, which is why it's known as an evergreen tree. What are the trees that people put in their house for Christmas? Evergreen trees. Those are evergreen trees. The trees that put the pines on the pine tree, those are evergreen trees. You understand? Those are the trees that people put in their house for Christmas. That is not anything that's new. That's not nothing that started 100 years ago, 200 years ago. It's not an American thing. That's something that goes all the way back to Nimrod. That's something that Jeremiah was experiencing during the time when he lived, which is why he was telling the people the custom is vain. Now, why were the people afraid? Because if you did not celebrate Nimrod's birthday, if you did not bring gifts and put it under the tree, then they would round you up and they would kill you, and they would say that Nimrod did it. They would say the king was unpleased because you didn't bring him any gifts, you didn't celebrate his birthday, then they would murder you. Everybody understands? Come on, y'all.
So if back then, do you know if the tree was in their house or was like a big tree outside?
It might have been a big tree, and it might have been a tree in the village. Wasn't everybody's house had a tree, but there was a tree where everybody was supposed to go put gifts.
Right.
There was a tree where you were supposed to worship the king on his birthday. And if you did not bring gifts and put them under that tree, you would be put to death.
Right.
Come on with it.
So it sounded like they had like somebody standing out there. Okay. Johnson family, they brought their gift.
Yes.
And when they look down the list and say, well, we ain't seen him and him.
Yes.
We're going to go and round them up.
Yes.
And
that's exactly how they did it.
So they kept the fear of people hard. So that's why Jeremiah had to let us know that don't be afraid of them. Because they was afraid of them. They was afraid
of the tree. They were afraid that if they didn't honor the king, they would die. And Jeremiah is saying, ain't no king. It's a tree. Ain't no king in that tree.
Right.
Ain't nobody gonna kill you for that, put no gift under that tree. Right. Trust in the Most High. Trust in the Lord. Now, during the time of the dying because you ain't putting the gift under the tree was something that goes back to the days of Nimrod. The time of Jeremiah is way later than that.
Right.
People aren't being put to death during the time of Jeremiah, but there's stories of what happens if you don't put gifts under the tree. Right. During the days of Jeremiah, they may have been putting the tree in their house because it wouldn't have been something that was acceptable in the neighborhood of Israel. You know what I'm saying? Right. Israelites. But of course, during the time of Jeremiah, Israelites are living in other places. We in Egypt. We living in the East. We living outside of Israel. So we are partaking in these celebrations of these heathens. Jeremiah is speaking to the children of Israel wherever they are. Don't do this evil thing. Right. Don't celebrate this evil thing. It goes against God. And what you celebrating for? What you scared of? Right. Think about it. Today, we celebrate Christmas. We say that we celebrate Christmas because of the love and because of the family and children, when really people celebrate Christmas out of fear. You celebrate Christmas because what if I don't? My girl might leave me. My kids might hate me. My family might say I'm just a broke ass nigga. That's why I ain't celebrating Christmas. We celebrate Christmas out of fear. You think people like going broke for Christmas? People don't like going broke for Christmas. You know how stressful it is to celebrate, to get gifts for everybody? Yeah. I work at a slavery with some young cats. I know how much they making. Niggas, I'm running down the list of stuff that he's spending, and I'm like, I don't know how this nigga even living. You got to do all of that for one day? Damn that. Yeah. They celebrated out of fear. Jeremiah understood that fear and was telling the people, don't be afraid, man. Nothing going to happen to you. Ain't no harm going to come to you. Everybody understands. But that fear was based in losing their life, but also losing the things that they held precious, which they thought that by celebrating this holiday, they would keep those things. People think that by celebrating Christmas, they're going to keep their family together. Guess what? That bitch going to leave you no matter what. Right. People think their kids going to love them because they celebrate Christmas. Guess what? Them kids going to hate you no matter what. You celebrate Christmas, get them all them gifts. Them toys going to break in 2 months. And them kids going to be right back to, Daddy, what you doing for me, Daddy? What you got? Right. Everybody understands. Come on with it. Ash, you had something?
Yeah. When they was doing the Nimrod thing, did they call that Christmas?
They didn't call it Christmas. They called it. They called it celebrating. They just called it Nimrod's birthday. Right? They didn't have. That's a good question. I don't know the name of what they were celebrating, but they did not call it Christmas. Christmas. The term Christmas comes from Christ Mass, which is the Romans call church mass. The gathering to worship God. They call that mass. Right? Okay. Christ Mass was the worshiping of Christ. It was the celebration of Christ. Okay. According to that was the Catholic excuse for it.
Right, that's what I'm
the Catholic excuse was this was Christ Mass. We're gathering to celebrate Christ.
Mass, like, or is it?
Mass, like the gathering.
The gathering, like mass, like people.
Like a mass of people, yeah. So it's a Latin suffix. The mass is a gathering.
The Christ mass.
Christ mass. The Christ mass was
about Christ, but Nimrod.
So
nothing about Christ at all.
Here's what the Romans did. The Romans took what people were already worshiping,
right,
and tried to pair it with the Bible.
See, that's
So before Christianity, people were already celebrating December 25th. Yes, and they called that Saturnalia. That was the worship of Christmas during the Roman times. It was known as Saturnalia. We're gonna read about Saturnalia in a second. Okay. But the Romans celebrated Saturnalia. Before there was a Christmas, they celebrated Saturnalia. All right. When Christianity became the religion of the Romans, in order to bring in all the people who worship Saturnalia, they just renamed it Christmas. And Christmas became the new celebration, but it was the thing they had already been doing. Christmas trees, gifts given, gathering, throwing a party. And we're going to get into it now, what the whole Saturnalia was about. But there's songs that we have that was associated with Christmas that are about the Saturnalia celebration. So that song, The 12 Days of Christmas. I always, even as a child, what the hell are the 12 Days of Christmas? Where that come from? The 12 Days of Christmas comes from the Saturnalia celebration. You understand? Nat King Cole sang that Christmas song where he says Yuletide carols being sung by a choir. What are Yuletide carols? What is that? That has something to do with what was worshipped before it was Christmas, and we're gonna get into all of that right now. All right. But Jeremiah warned us against this and said, "Don't do it. It's you got nothing to be afraid of." The people were afraid because at one time you died for not celebrating Christmas. Everybody understand? All right. So reading on, this is another entry on this page I got here. It says traditionally, a Yule log was burned in the fireplace on Christmas Eve, and during the night, as the log's embers died, there appeared in the room, as if by magic, a Christmas tree surrounded by gifts. The Yule log represented the sun god Nimrod, and the Christmas tree represented himself as his own son Tammuz. Everybody understand? All right. So let me see. Hold on. So that's the Yule log. But let me go ahead and try to see if I can find. Let me see. Go ahead.
So, is it kind of like what they got, like Christ, the Bible story, and the story of Nimrod, kind of they try to say it's the same with them because they didn't want the people to know that he got his mama pregnant, and so they say he ain't had no father. So this is like a spinoff for Christianity or something like that.
You mean the whole Nimrod thing?
Yeah, like the Nimrod thing and the thing about Christ didn't have a...
Yes, all of that story of Christ being born without a father comes from Nimrod.
Right. Okay.
Right. So that was the whole, because remember, Nimrod's mother was his wife.
Right.
Nimrod was having sex with his mother. So that was a whole nasty thing. Right. And in other religions copied from Nimrod. That's where you get in Egypt, you get Horus and Isis and Osiris, where Horus died, was dead, and his wife Osiris took his penis and did something nasty with it, and then got pregnant and had a baby, even though he was dead. Right. That Egypt story came from Nimrod. Right. Then from Egypt, the Greeks and the Romans got it, and they made the story of Jesus based off of the lie that they took from Egypt. Everybody understands? So if you was to study religion and go back and trace the stories of religion, what was taught in Christianity goes back to what was taught in Rome. What was taught in Rome goes back to what was taught in Egypt. What was taught in Egypt goes back to what was taught in Babylon. And there's a whole line that you can trace from Christianity all the way back to these other religions. Come on with it.
When did they make it Like who and when did the Christians switch from Paul them to the heathens all the way around?
That's about
It's like
that goes to about the year 400, 300, 400 BC. I mean AD.
Real.
That goes to the time of Constantine and the councils, right? So the religion of Christianity did not exist until Constantine.
Okay.
There was no celebrating Christmas. There was no virgin birth. There was no all nations can come and be a part of this. All of that, there was about 300 years where being a Christian was being an Israelite.
Like
come on with it.
Like Peter and them and stuff.
Yes.
Was getting murdered.
Yes.
Come on with it. When did Peter and them like people like the real deal Christians? I would call them. When did they die off and it started becoming Roman? Like when the Romans start making it, like what year was that?
I give you the year. I'm gonna look it up right now and give you the year. It was the year when Constantine made Christianity the Roman religion. Right. All right. Let me see something. No sweat.
And so they was the ones that brought in the Nimrod and started mixing it with it started getting mixed in, because I know Peter them wasn't hearing no Nimrod shit. They just was speaking Christ.
Yeah. So well, here we go. In 380 CE, the emperor Theodosius issued the Edict of Thessalonica, which made Christianity, specifically Nicene Christianity, the official religion of the Roman Empire. Everybody understands? All right. Let me see something. In 313 CE, the Emperor Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, which granted Christianity, as well as most other religions, legal status. Everybody understands? So in 313, Constantine made Christianity no longer something you get murdered for believing in.
And he was Roman and stuff, right?
He was Roman.
So if I make
go ahead.
So what they was killing Peter them and Paul them for, they took it and made it worldwide. Okay. How could they was killing us for preaching Christ, right? Mm-hmm. And then they made it, I mean, because they was the ones killing us for it, right?
Yes, I mean, help you understand it. This is what happened. This is what happened. The truth was, let's call it the truth. Right. The truth was an anti-society movement, meaning men who came into the truth no longer cared or believe or lived their lives for the things the world had to offer. You understand? So men who came into the truth became not beneficial for the empire, because the empire needs people who are trying to find their way to the top. The empire needs people who are willing to do whatever it takes to make money, whatever it takes to acquire wealth, whatever it takes to get to the top. And that is how you get people who are traitors. That's how you get people who will be corrupt. That's how you get people who will break the laws to get to where they want to be. Well, coming into the truth made men not want to live that way. So being in the truth made you someone who they could not take advantage of, someone who they could not abuse, someone who they could not use for evil, because being in the truth meant that you didn't really care about material stuff because you're living your life for the Most High. Right. After hundreds of years of killing these people in the truth, after hundreds of years of hating these people in the truth, after hundreds of years of these people in the truth being a problem and a nuisance, Constantine became the emperor in Rome after fighting some wars, right? Okay. When he won these wars, Constantine said, I'm going to take these people who have been being killed and being murdered, and I am going to show them favor. And if I show them favor, maybe I can win them over to my side. If I can win them over to my side, then now I can use them for their strength and their power and their discipline and their focus to grow my empire. You understand? Okay. Yes. So Constantine made Christianity legal so that the people in the truth would love him. And by loving him, he would get them to be, he would be able to use them to make his empire stronger. You understand? Now, why would having the men in the truth love you make your empire stronger? That's the question you have to ask. Why would Constantine even care about these people who had been dying for hundreds of years? Why would he give a fuck? Excuse my language. Why would he care? What was in it for Constantine to make the truth no longer something you had to die for?
What was in it for him?
What was in it for him?
I mean, if he can control them, I mean, he got everybody else. If he got them, he got the world there.
Okay.
I would say that.
Why would he need them though if he already got the world?
I mean, he knew they had the Lord on their side.
No,
he didn't know that.
He did not know that, and that's why I asked. That's why I asked the question. He didn't care about God.
Okay.
No politician cares about God. It's never about God. Nobody cares about God. Right? Constantine did not care about the God of the Hebrews. Constantine cared about them Hebrews. Why would having the Hebrews or the people in the truth who were willing to die for their belief, why would having them on your side be important?
You don't want to fight them, I would say.
Okay, why don't you want to fight them?
They go fight, for whatever, you know what I mean? For the Lord, no matter what. They some fearsome, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They are forced to be reckoned with.
They are forced to be reckoned with. So what would I gain by having them on my side?
You ain't got to worry about fighting with them.
What if I have them to fight with me?
Oh, well, then you won it, then.
Then I can go, if I can get these people who are willing to die for their God.
If they fighting for you.
If they fighting for me.
You win it.
I'm winning.
Yeah.
That's why Constantine made the truth not a crime. Because he wanted these people who were willing to die for their God. Who dies for their God? If I put a gun to a Muslim nigga's head right now, he taking the kufi off. Right. No, hey man, no more Allah Akbar. I don't know what that shit was even.
You're gonna say, please, Jesus, help me.
You put a gun to a Muslim head, he gonna say, please, Jesus, help me. You understand? If you put whatever your belief is, people will give up their God. They don't care. These people died in arenas fighting lions and bears because they're God. Constantine said, I want the most hardcore, disciplined, focused men in this empire. I want them on my side. So I'm going to make their religion acceptable so that I can win them over to my side. And when he made Christianity legal, guess what he did? He won them people over to his side. And those men, where were the men who were Christians living before Constantine passed this law? They were living out in the caves. They were hiding in the deserts. They were fugitives because if they got caught worshiping their God, they got murdered and put to death and had to fight in arenas. Well, when Constantine passed the law, these gangsters who were hiding out in caves and living in the woods and living on the run, now they came to come serve Constantine. They came to come and fight in his army. They came to come and stand before him and say, thank you for seeing our plight, seeing our struggle. Thank you for no longer persecuting us. And Constantine won them to his side. And what was the first thing Constantine did? Tell me about your belief. Tell me about your religion. And those men sat down and opened up the Bible and the records, and they taught this heathen everything. And then the heathen said, okay, well, we're going to take what you believe and we're going to spread it to everybody. Here's what those brothers didn't realize. This heathen was the devil.
That's right.
This heathen did not care about them, did not care about their God. He only wanted to use them. He only wanted to take advantage of their strengths. And that's what Constantine did. After Constantine passed this law, he held several councils. In those councils is when the men who men in the truth sat down with other men, and they had discussions on how are we going to teach this to everybody, to the world, to the people who won't celebrate it. How do we teach it to them? And it is in those councils where they created the virgin birth story, where they created the December 25th Christmas story, All those stories were created so that we could now sell this truth to everybody. But if you're trying to sell something to everybody that ain't supposed to be given to everybody, you got to water it down.
Right.
And that's where the truth went from being that thing that niggas hid out in the woods and the caves and did to being Christmas and everybody coming together and getting baptized. It came because this heathen used crafty counsel and made this illegal thing legal, and these brothers came and were thankful, and it weakened them. Come on with it.
Okay. Was that about the point when they started saying the laws was done away?
Yes. In those councils, those
right
councils
there.
is when they created what they were going to teach.
Okay. Right.
I'll give you the name of what I'll do is I'll do a classes on these councils. Okay. There was a council of Nicaea, there was a council of Laodicea, there was a council of Trent. In these different councils, they created the different Christian stories. Okay. These Christian stories don't have nothing to do with the Bible, but the men in the truth were using the Bible and saying, well, the Bible says this, these are our records say this. And some heathen would say, that sounds kind of like this thing. Well, what if we just said he didn't have a father? What if we said that he was, that Christ was like the angels? It sounds like this guy. And the men in the truth was like, nah, that ain't right. That ain't what we believe. But so in the councils, they arguing over what's right, what's wrong. And the men in the also in these councils is when they decided what books were right. The men in the truth, is like, there's a book of Adam and Eve. The men in the truth like, nah, that ain't our records. Right. And they like, well, we can't put this in the Bible. Like, nah, we can't put that in the Bible. So they got rid of this book and got rid of that book. The councils weren't all bad. Meaning there were some things in these councils that were decided that were right. Like getting rid of books that had nothing to do with the truth. The men in those councils who were in the truth got rid of those side books. They kept these books because these was the records. But also in these councils, Christmas came about. You know what I'm saying? The virgin birth came about. The whole, all of these things being tied to these false gods came about. And I don't even know if the men who were in the truth in those councils knew what was taking place. All they knew is that what they believed was now being accepted, and they was getting money, and they was being wealthy. They was being allowed to rest now. You know, hundreds of years of on the run and in the caves and living in hell. And then finally somebody comes and says, nah, man, you ain't got to live in hell no more, man. We got you. That can make a man relax. Make a man let his guard down and forget what he was struggling all those years about. You understand? So those councils is where the Christian religion was created. But prior to 313, Christianity was an underground movement. It was a Israelite movement. It was the truth. And the men it was ISUPK, and the men in the truth were men who were fugitives on the run, teaching in secret, teaching in private, because you could not be loud and open about what they believed in all those thousands of years ago. Because they lived in a time where you spoke against the king, the emperor, you got put to death. Well, the Bible is against the emperor. The prophets prophesy against many countries and great kingdoms. You could not be in the truth and be okay living in society at that time, which is why those men had to go on the run, which is why those men were living in the deserts, living in caves. They were living a rough life because that's what being in the truth meant for you at that time. Come on, y'all.
So that's why they had to say that the laws were done away with, because if they kept the laws, then the world would be in order.
If they kept the laws, then you would be against the Roman government.
Yeah, right.
If the men in the truth said, no, you got to keep all these laws. You know how Rome was like America today. Right. That means all prostitution got to go away. All homosexuals got to be put to death. Right. They had to say the law done away where you could live. Accept Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior. Right. That came about in those councils. That ain't in the Bible. Those things came about from men who knew how to get the masses. They had some game. And that's what it was a transition process. It wasn't like one day men was in the truth and then they turned Roman. No, it was hundreds of years, and the white man, now I didn't say the white man, the heathens fine-tooling how to steal our book.
Right.
But it took time for them to steal it from us. It was crafty counsel. It didn't happen overnight. It took years and years and years of them trying to learning what the truth was so that they could find a way to add the lies in. And that's what they ended up doing, which is why during the Roman Empire, the Bible wasn't available to everybody to read.
Yeah,
only the popes was able to read, and the Catholic priests were able to read. So people for hundreds of years didn't even know what was in this book. That's why what King James did was revolutionary. And King James said, I want everybody to have this Bible. I want everybody to be able to read for themselves and see what it says in this book about God and about salvation and about the laws, which is why the Roman Catholic Church hated King James, because he made it so that you couldn't be manipulated if you just read it for yourself.
Right.
And that was revolutionary. Right. But all the years between the Roman Empire and King James, niggas wasn't reading no Bible. People wasn't learning themselves. They wasn't understanding what God said. It was just the heathens telling people whatever, and everybody went along with it.
All right, so was the books that Paul them wrote before they, you know what I'm saying, stole all this, you know what I mean? What was the books of
Paul wrote his
What
books?
was the New Testament?
Okay,
like an official and
okay, so the New Testament books were written shortly after Christ died.
Yeah, like
so these didn't come about to about 65, 70 AD. Meaning after Christ died. So, all right, if you want to think of it in Esau's time, Christ died about the year 34, 35 AD. Meaning 35 years from zero. If you want to look at it that way, right? It's just goofy, but he was born, he died about 35, he died about 33 BC, right?
How long after that?
About 40 years later is when all the writings of Paul and the New Testament was established.
Okay, so that was quick then.
Yes, it didn't take long, but okay. Again, these men, it was a small movement.
Okay.
Christ, the men who follow Christ, it wasn't like America taking over the world. It was like the ISUPK. It was like a few niggas and learning and teaching and traveling and teaching and people learning and coming into the truth. And then 20 years later, 30 years later, they got niggas in different countries and niggas in different cities and schools picking up everywhere. It was a small movement. It never was a giant earth-shattering, everybody in the world is shook up, look at these Israelites. It was never that. It was always a small thing. So this small thing that Peter and Paul and those brothers was doing, it became big around 80, 90 AD. You know what I'm saying? Right. So around the year 80, 90 is when Paul is writing these letters. About 50 years after, 950, about 30, 40 years after Christ's death is when Paul is writing these letters and telling people what they tell them.
Peter and Paul, them old men.
Yes, these brothers is old.
Right,
these brothers,
memoirs,
but not okay. Don't even think that. Paul wrote these letters a minute ago. They did not become part of the Bible until later. So okay, Paul wrote these letters maybe 15 years, 20 years after Christ died. Okay. Paul is writing these letters. The book of Acts is being recorded shortly after Christ has died.
Right.
But it doesn't become something that everybody in the truth reads and studies until 50 years later. You know what I'm saying? Like Paul writing these letters 15 years after Christ died, Paul done built these schools up. Right. So Paul's writing these letters to teach brothers. It wasn't until later that men said, yo, this letter that Paul wrote is deep. Like there's something that everybody should be reading. Everybody should have this letter and read this letter because there's a lot in here about how the schools should be operating. So the men in different schools start passing this letter around. Hey, Paul wrote this letter to the Philippians, y'all. We should read this. Hey, make sure this letter get read in your school. Make sure this letter get read in your school. They passing this letter around till finally the letter to Philippians is biblical. This letter that Paul, he wrote a letter to the Ephesians too. For real, what that letter say? Okay. Hey, y'all need to read this letter to the Ephesians. Hey, somebody gave an order. Make sure all the schools read this letter to the Ephesians. Hey, you know what? Paul wrote a letter to the Thessalonians too. What did he tell them? Man, listen, you got to read this letter to the Thessalonians. Hey, make sure everybody in all the schools read this letter to the Thessalonians. Well, 50 years after everybody's reading these letters that Paul wrote, they become part of the Bible because it's important to have these letters. You want to set up a school, you want to teach the truth, you want to be righteous and honorable about it, then you got to read these letters that Paul wrote. Because in these letters, Paul is telling you how to not fall into the traps and the pitfalls of being between the world and the truth. Paul in these letters is telling men how to raise up men to be in the truth, how to raise sisters to honor their husbands and shut their damn mouth, how to teach men not to do what men in the world do, which is have sex with your father's woman. Paul was writing these things in these letters. So years after they've been reading them, somebody just said, hey, man, make sure everybody reads the letters that Paul wrote. Hey, you know, Peter wrote a letter too. Peter wrote a letter. Everybody read this letter that Peter wrote, and that's how you get 1 Peter, 2 Peter. Hundreds of years later, in those councils, the men in those councils say these letters from Paul are very important to us. Any man in the truth needs to read these letters from Paul. That's how it became part of the Bible. This book of Acts, the Acts of the men after Christ died, this is important history for us. Any man who's going to follow us needs to know this history because they need to know what they're holding on to. And the book of Acts becomes part of the Bible. That's how that happened. You understand what I'm saying? There was a brother locked up named John, man. He was locked up on the island of Patmos, and John wrote a letter. Listen, man, what John put in this letter was deep, man. He revealed a whole lot in this letter. That becomes the book of Revelations. That's how you get it, the book of Revelations, because, hey, everybody need to read what John wrote. This letter that John sent when he was locked up, everybody need to read this letter. And now it becomes, it for hundreds of years, everybody reading this letter, now it's part of the Bible.
So if I get it right, after that it was all done, Constantine got a grip of how these people was, the real Christians was keeping this book, and he was like, shit, let me incorporate this book with our shit to get everybody, both sides of the table, if I should say, and then
that's it. You got it. Constantine said, I need these hardcore niggas who were willing to die for their belief, and I need to get them on my side. And once I get them on my side, I'll do whatever it takes to keep them on my side. And keeping them on his side meant, okay, your belief in your book, I need you to teach it to everybody. But I need to make sure that everybody can accept it. So here's what we're going to do. Have these councils. Y'all bring y'all truth. I'll have everybody else bring their belief, and we'll find a way if we can't find some common ground. And finding common ground was watering down the truth.
Yeah, watering it down the truth.
And that's how you get the religion of Christianity.
Well, they ruled the world so they can push it on the main scale.
Yeah.
Okay. Understand.
You know what I'm saying?
Because we would have been for it.
Yeah, but, okay, don't say that. And be careful with that.
Okay.
Don't look at the brothers who joined Rome like they were evil. They were men who maybe didn't know that they didn't know that they were. How can I say it? Like I'm saying, if you got to put your mind in them, these men were on the run for hundreds of years. Who knows how many of their men had been murdered and killed, and stories that came back. Man, they caught so-and-so, man. They got him in the Coliseum fighting some bears, man. Yeah, man, you know, so-and-so got his head ripped off by a lion, man. You don't know what these brothers went through living that hard life to where one day somebody comes and says, y'all, we ain't got to live in the caves no more. They not killing us anymore. We ain't got to be on the run. They said it's legal for us to worship what we worship now. To those men, that could have been a sign from God. It could have been finally the suffering is over. The tribulation is at an end. Now we can live and we can serve the Lord, and glory will be brought to our name. They didn't know that glory and that whatever they thought they were getting was actually the devil taking their truth and erasing it. You understand what I'm saying? So we don't know what those. It's easy to say, oh man, them niggas sold out, but I mean, they didn't think they were selling out. You know what I'm saying?
They made it easier probably for
That's how. The white man gave a gift, and that gift destroyed the heart. That's how you look at it. You know what I'm saying? Constantine passing the law where you can't kill these Christians no more. For the men who were being killed, they could breathe now. But it was a gift. And them taking that gift, it destroyed the movement. It destroyed the truth. It meant that now the truth that they had died for was in jeopardy of being erased. Because look how many years it took after that for the truth to be back in the earth and for us to be back standing strong as a nation. Come on with it.
If I may, sir, am I pushing over with the Martin Luther King?
What you mean?
Am I pushing, like, is that the same thing? Like, shit, you know, he
Martin Luther
after, you know, the struggle that we was already in.
Well, see, Martin Luther. Okay, it's different because Martin. Okay,
and they made our struggle a worldwide thing, passing it to the fags and Japanese people and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, you could look at it that way. You could look at it like a pattern. You could look at it like that. But Martin Luther King was never honorable to begin with. That's the difference.
Right.
Martin Luther King was never honorable. That whole and really, man, I've been doing some studying and some researching. Every black, whoever you ever heard of in America, all them niggas was with the white man. Evil and sellouts from the beginning. W.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, motherfucking Frederick Douglass, all them niggas was sellouts. I'm been doing some reading, some studying. Marcus Garvey, all them niggas was sellouts. Them niggas hated niggas. All of them. So anybody good you ever heard about since we've been in America, all them niggas was with the white man. You understand? I'm talking about from a lot of them niggas was white men. A lot of them niggas daddies was white. Granddaddies was white. The NAACP, the Urban League, all them blackity black niggas you hear about from the past, all of them niggas was white men. They never cared about black people, never had anything good for black people. So that whole Martin Luther King and them niggas was all sellouts. So that's different. But it's the same in the white man taking a black struggle and then taking that struggle from black people and making it to everybody and robbing it from us. So you could use it that way. But Martin Luther King would not at all be in the same class as the men of the truth who came out of those caves. You understand? So that's your question was, how did we go from having the truth and standing in the truth to the white man's lies being brought in? So that answered that, right? All right, let me get this next video. This is the history of the whole Saturnalia, all right? And I'm hoping that Esau don't shut us down, but I'm about to play a clip from a very popular TV show. But this clip is going to break down the whole thing for you, all right?
I am the stone that the builder refused. I am the visual, the inspiration that made ladies see the blues. I'm the spark that makes your idea bright. The same spark that lights the dark so that you can know you're not from your fight. I am the ballad in your box.
This is the Boondocks, a popular black show. He talks about Christmas, right? Everything that's said in this clip is going to be the truth.
And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. And that's what Christmas is all about.
You hear that, boy? That's what Christmas is all about.
Actually, Granddad, Christmas is a pagan holiday, and Jesus probably hates you for celebrating.
Whoever put this together, some fake.
Ain't gonna be no Scrooges in this house, boy.
Look, Granddad, it's clear from the scripture that Jesus was not born in winter. The shepherds who saw the angels announcing his birth would not have been out in their fields in December. The Palestinian winters are too cold, if you believe in that sort of thing. The truth is, Christmas evolved from the Roman holiday Saturnalia, a winter festival where men gave gifts to each other. They also would get drunk, have sex with each other, and beat their wives. People would act so crazy on Christmas, the holiday was outlawed by the Protestant Church until the 1800s. As a matter of fact, the United States Congress...
He ain't trying to hear this nigga bringing the truth.
Granddad.
I'm sorry, boy. What was that?
I just explained the entire history of Christmas.
But it was boring, Huey. You just blah, blah, gay sex, blah, blah, Congress. You know, you got to be interesting. You're going to talk me to death. Talk.
That's, let me see if there's more. Oh, again, some fake Israelite put this together, so he put the scriptures in there. He beat the hell out of Santa in there. But that's the truth about Christmas. Christmas comes from a Roman holiday known as Saturnalia. And Saturnalia was a time when they would get together and they would give gifts and they would have orgies. You understand? Nasty, freaky, nasty sex. But that is where you get the 12 days of Christmas my true love gave to me. Everybody understand?
Are you serious?
That 12 days of Christmas is Saturnalia. The 12 days of Christmas comes from, I believe they started worshiping on the 23rd all the way to New Year's. So it was like a week and a half of just partying and sex and just celebrating and nastiness, giving gifts and doing nastiness. And that's what the Romans celebrated. Like he said in the clip, Christmas was such a violent and rapey holiday that they had to outlaw it. In the Protestant England in like the 1600s, they outlawed Christmas until about the 1800s because Christmas was such a evil, lust-filled, raping, orgy having, drunken, beating your wife party that they had to outlaw it. Go look it up. They outlawed Christmas and then they brought it back. And when they brought it back, it came with all of the Santa Claus and reindeers and the singing the songs and the fa la 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 la. That's never what it was about. Come on, y'all.
I had a question about what you had said a little earlier. Was it important for them to get the people that were actually in the truth to go along with them? So when the other people outside see that the people that was in the truth is rolling with them, they're like, okay, then if they doing it.
That was the most important part. It was the same as with Mattathias and them trying to get him to eat the pork, eat the food sacrificed to idols. It was the same as that. If we get him to fall, everybody will follow. You understand? And so that's what it was. I see that there's a lot of interest in this. I'll do a whole class on Constantine and bringing the truth out of hiding is what he did. But there's a lot of it's recorded what the process, what him making it no longer a crime to celebrate Christmas. I mean, to be an Israelite. Basically, he made being an Israelite not a crime. And when he did it, it transformed the movement of the truth because men who were dying for a long time being in the truth now were able to manfully stand in society. You know what I'm saying? Come on, y'all.
So by him making being an Israelite not a crime, it also made it okay for other people to say, well, I'm an Israelite too. Then.
Yes. People who had been living in Rome as were living in this empire, hiding the truth of who they were. These men now being able to teach and be accepted made it so that they could now be accepted.
So what about
Go ahead.
So what about the heathens? They can also come up and say.
Well, the heathens never wanted to be part of us, though. The heathens never wanted to be down with us because being down with us meant you had to obey our laws. You understand? The reason why they were killing Christians is because Christians were condemning them for how they were living. Yes, imagine the truth. 2,000 years. That's what being a Christian was being in the truth.
Right.
And the same way being in the truth today, we offend people. Them brothers was offensive because those brothers would cut you on everything you doing and how you living and how you being. And nobody likes to get cut. Today, if crackers could kill us for what we say on them corners, we would be dead. Nobody likes to hear what we're saying. They hate it. But the laws of America, man, you got to respect our freedom of speech, bitch. So we're going to say what we got to say. But they wish that they could go back to a time where you could kill a nigga for saying something on that corner. Everybody understands. That's what the heathens want. They don't want us to be strong and stand powerful and serving the Lord. They want us to be destroyed. They want us to be broken and beaten down. Everybody understand what I'm saying? So them brothers coming out of them caves, yeah, for the heathens, it was these niggas, right? Now we got to deal with these niggas. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's that. Come on with it.
So I think that's the reason that they hate us forever, though. Like forever and all time, because we live by some shit that they don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like we really buckle down and serve That's what separates us from them.
And that's what makes us the threat.
Right.
Because
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we got the balls to really buckle down and serve the Lord. They don't serve shit. They serve anything that pops up. New sun, if a new sun start brighten up, they have motherfuckers serving that sun. So
whatever the masses of people go with whatever they told is what they'll believe. You know what I'm saying? And that's why today homosexuality, drug addiction, all these things are happening and it's being accepted because nobody really has any convictions. People just go along with what they told. And so that's what's been going on in society is people just been going along with what they've been told. And so that's why the truth is important and the truth is a threat because the people who learn the truth and live their lives according to it, they can't be manipulated. They can't be taken advantage of. They can't be used, you know what I'm saying, and manipulated like the masses of the people. Everybody understand? All right. So with that, do we have any questions? Let me get ready to close out the class. We got to end a little early. Sis, come on with it.
I got a question. It's on a different
subject.
It's a lady at work that's watching the class, and she wanted to know what scripture in the Bible say we not Africans, because I keep telling her that I'm not an African.
Okay. All right, no problem. Let me get you I'll get that scripture for you right now. Well, okay. The history of our nation tells you that we're not Africans, right? In the Bible, the history of the Israelites will let you know that we're not Africans. But I'll give you a couple specific God hates African scriptures, or God, there's a difference between Israelites and African scriptures, all right? Get Exodus 11:7. All right, this is for the sister if you're watching, all right, sister? This is how you know that Israelites are not Africans, okay? Exodus 11:7 says, but against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue. Meaning what? There's some people that God refers to as dogs. He ain't talking about a dog barking. He's talking about a person saying something against the Israelites. Against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord does put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Everybody understands? The Most High put a difference between the Egyptians, who are the Egyptians? Africans, and Israel. Well, Israel, Israelites. Egyptians come from the seed of Ham. Israelites come from the seed of Shem. Everybody understands? Africans and Israelites are not the same. All right. Get you one more scripture. Let me get Zephaniah 12:2. Zephaniah 12. Hold on. No, it's not. Is it Zephaniah 2:12? Zephaniah 2:12. All right, this is God talking to another group of Africans, the Ethiopians. Everybody understands? Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 12. I'll get Zephaniah 2:11. And it says, the Most High will be terrible unto them, for he will famish all the gods of the earth, and men shall worship him, everyone from his place, even all the islands of the heathen. Verse 12, ye Ethiopians also, ye shall be slain by my sword. Who are the Ethiopians? They are a tribe of Africans. And the Lord said the Ethiopians are going to be slain by his sword in that day. Everybody understand? God does not love Africans. God loves the children of Israel. Everybody understands? I'll give you some more validation. This is the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, right? Zondervan Bible Dictionary is going to give you the definition of Ham, and it's going to make a distinction between Ham and the children of Israel. This is how you know that the children of Israel are not Africans. Everybody understands? And this right here is the nail in the coffin, for real, for real. All right. All right. This is the Zondervan Bible Dictionary definition of Ham. This is page 213. It says Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor. Progenitor means father of. He became the father of the dark races, not the Negroes. Ham was the father of the dark races, not the Negroes. Now, we didn't make this book. The white man made this book. The white man said that Ham was the father of the dark races, but not the father of the Negroes. Go look at slave signs. It says Negroes for sale. Don't say Africans for sale. Don't say Africans coming off of a boat. Africans being sold at an auction. It says Negroes. There's a difference between Negroes and Africans, and our oppressor knows it. Everybody understands. Keep reading. Not the Negroes, but the Egyptians. What are Egyptians? Africans. But Ethiopians. What are Ethiopians? Africans. Libyans. What are the Libyans? Africans. And Canaanites. What are they? Africans. There's a difference between the Africans and the Negroes. The Bible says it. The dictionary says it. Ask that sister, why does she think she's an African?
Well, she said we all from the motherland. We all come from the same place.
Yeah, just ask her why she thinks she's an African, and that's the answer she'll give you, and that's not true.
Does she believe in the Bible?
No, she believes in a spirit.
No, okay.
She's lost. She's an Israelite in Memphis who don't know nothing,
Right.
but she just believes what she's been told. What was you gonna say?
About her saying the motherland, I wonder if she believes in the Bible, I would show her where the motherland is.
Yeah, but she don't believe in the mother. She don't believe Africa is the motherland because of what the Bible say. She believes because she hates being a nigger, and anything other than being a nigger, she'll love that. So motherland, and I'm Great Zimbabwe, and whatever the hell other blackity black nonsense she ever learned. Sis, come to class, sis. Just come to class for your own sanity. Come learn the truth, and we'll teach you all the things you need in order to have pride and love of being black. Everybody understands? With that, close out the class, clap it up. Israelite School of UPK out of 1 West 125th Street in Harlem, New York. Since 1969, we've been teaching the truth. You brothers and sisters tuning in, you got family, loved ones, people you care about in Memphis, Tennessee, and surrounding areas. Get them in contact with us here in the ISUPK. We got classes Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Pay your tithes, man. 10% of any penny of any increase the Most High gives you, it goes to help build up the school and raise up these cities that we're in. With that, any brothers want to be troopers in the school, start wearing all blacks, boot, pants, headband, and scarf. With that, I imagine, which means stand. All right. We'll get one courtesy salute, individual, Imagine Shabbat. Imagine, Barak, Yahweh, Shem, Yahushua, Barak, Thumb, Yajim Matah, Sar, Turner, Face, and Sisters. Get the sisters one courtesy salute, individual, Imagine Shabbat. Imagine, Barak, Yahweh, Shema, Thumb, Shem, Yahushua. Most High Christ. Yada Matah, hands down, class dismissed.